Hi besties, welcome back. It has been a minute and I am so privileged and honored to be here again going through Darlene Shack's book that she has written on the Book of Ruth. And you guys, I have never gone through just one single chapter and learned so many different things about a book in the Bible that I did not know. So I hope you join me. This Bible study is so in-depth and I love it. If you want to purchase this, it is available at Amazon.com. If you cannot afford to purchase it, we want these Bible studies to be available for everybody. So if you go to timewarplife.com, hit the link and become a subscriber, then a free download of this will become available to you. And we really hope that you can join us and grow in your faith alongside of us. When I saw the cover of this book, I was like, it is stunning. I love that they're just standing in a field. Oh, so good. Okay. Before I dive into this though, my friends, I have some exciting news that I want to share with you guys. It was so fun to be able to announce to my family and friends just over Christmas that my husband Sean and I are expecting baby number 3. So if you want to see, I've got a little, here you can't tell, a little bump growing. I'm just about to start my second trimester. So if you're seeing a big belly in these videos, I did not just eat too much mashed potatoes. There is a child on there. And we are very excited and very, very blessed by the Lord. And I had a couple of months off right after Christmas, which was perfect because I got to rest and I am feeling so much better now. And I'm very excited to be getting into this with you guys. So thank you for all the congratulations in advance. And yeah, you might be seeing this little one eventually one day, which would be very fun. Okay, I am gonna just share a couple of things from the introduction that I thought were really interesting. So starting on page 1, let's consider Ruth's lineage and historical significance. She is the grandmother of Jesse and the great-grandmother of King David and one of the 5 women mentioned in the genealogy of Jesus Christ, along with Tamar, Rahab, Bathsheba, and Mary. This story set between 15 and 1600 BC has been a subject of intrigue and study, especially regarding its authorship, which many scholars attribute to Samuel, which is really interesting to me. As we embark on this study, we will see God's hand in every detail of Ruth's life, a reminder that he is intimately involved in ours as well. The faith, kindness, and devotion of the main characters offers us models to emulate. My prayer is that through this journey, you will be inspired to mold your character to reflect God's virtues and courageously pursue our ultimate kinsman redeemer, our Lord Jesus Christ. So well said, Darlene. Just love it. Okay. Oh, I found this so interesting. So starting with chapter 1, this blew my mind, actually. I did not know this about the Moabites. So I'll just read this here. Before we get into the study, it's important to understand the historical backdrop of the Moabites and their strained relationship with the Israelites. This tension is rooted in a complex history detailed in Genesis 19 after the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot's daughters, in an effort to preserve their father's lineage, induced Lot into drunkenness and conceived children with him. Isn't it so interesting that when we have our own plans that are outside of the Lord's will, it just never goes as well as it could have. I wonder how God would have preserved their lineage if they had done it in obedience to him. It just makes me curious. Anyway, the Moabites descended from this union were known not just for their origins, but also for their practices. They were idol worshippers who often stood in opposition to Israel. This backdrop highlights God's grace as a Moabite woman emerged from this background of strife and idolatry. Ruth's story is a testament to God's redemptive power. Her inclusion in the lineage of Jesus Christ illustrates how God is able to transform a history of enmity and sin into a legacy of grace and salvation. Let that be an encouragement for you and your own families as well. Okay, I loved this question that she asked on page 9. Beyond the 4 famines mentioned, can you identify another instance where God used a significant event to direct the course of his people or to deliver a message? And they're asking this question because originally Naomi had to leave Israel because of a famine, and so that caused her to move to Moab, which caused her sons to marry Moabite women, and Ruth was one of those women. And so that one significant event changed the history of this woman's life. And I was trying to think beyond the other 4 examples that she gave, and I was reminded of a recent study that we actually did on the book of Esther, and I was curious about Mordecai and what he was doing in Susa. And maybe I've known this before, I don't know, but I couldn't remember what had happened. So I went back in my Bible and looked it up, Esther 2, 6-7, and it actually says that Mordecai was carried into exile from Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar, and so he was taken captive. And Esther probably came along with him. I'm not sure exactly how that worked, but she's his niece or his cousin, and so she was with him, and that was obviously a really unfortunate event that happened in his life, but God used it for so much good to save the people later on. And so just interesting to me if that can be used as an example. It just, yeah, it was fun to think about that throughout Bible. I actually would like what I just said didn't make sense. It was fun to think about that through the Bible, all the different stories and significant events that did happen that shaped those nations and that, yeah, brought the Israelites to be where they were. So on page 10, oh my goodness, this passage, this is a hard one, but such a good one. Luke 14, 26-30. If anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brother and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not carry their cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying, this person began to build and was not able to finish. Oh, this is one of those verses that as a Christian, we just have to grapple with. And I think sometimes it's misunderstood, and I'm going to read what Darlene said later because, like right after it, because it clarifies so well. But it's one of those passages that every time I read it, it makes me shake in my boots a little bit. It's one of those ones that makes me ask, am I living for Jesus really? And it's easy to kind of sometimes like look at our lives and look at the like the one good thing that we've done. And like for me, and this is almost embarrassing to admit, but I can think like, oh, well, I was once a missionary in Africa, so I am obviously like doing that. But it's like, that was then, and I was sacrificing and I was living wholeheartedly for the Lord, but like, I have to keep doing that every single day. It's not just that one time I did that one good thing. It's like every day I'm called to account to love him with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength. And to love him more than I love this world, to love him more than I love my husband, to love him more than I love my children. Ooh, and as a mama, that is hard. You know, I want my children to make good memories in their lives, and I want them to have fun, and I want to buy them fun things, and I want so badly to spoil them, you know, and to protect them from the pains of the world. And yet, more than that, I want them to know the love of Christ, and I want them to, of course, love him with all their heart. And if that means they are ridiculed, if that means they have no friends, if it means that they have to suffer for the sake of the gospel, like, oh, it's still what I want more than just temporary comfort on this world. I want them to have the joys of eternity with their Savior one day, and to be able to share that good news with others. And so it is definitely convicting, definitely challenging. It is a question that we can ask ourselves every day. How did I die to myself today? How did I pick up my cross today? How did I love God in comparison to the way that I loved the world, loved myself, or loved other people? And sometimes it's the love of self that really gets us. And we just do whatever makes us happy, whatever makes us feel better, whatever comforts us over what God is actually calling us to do. And if you really struggle with this, I was challenged by someone to practice doing one thing that's outside of your comfort zone every single day. Search for that thing. Because I think oftentimes we literally hide, like we try to avoid anything that makes us uncomfortable at all cost. But if you can get comfortable being uncomfortable, if that makes any sense, if you can get used to pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, you will learn that you can do it. and that God will carry you through those moments. And then you will have the confidence to suffer for him and to stand up for him and to be in that uncomfortable spot sometimes. And I think that that is a practice that is so missed in our culture these days, and we're obsessed with self, obsessed with comfort, obsessed with pleasure. Anyways, I'm on a rant. I'm going to read what she said underneath there. Of course, Jesus isn't advocating for actual hate here. The extreme language is used to emphasize the degree of commitment required of us. He is not contradicting his command to love others, but rather he is illustrating that following him may require difficult choices and priorities that supersede even our closest relationships. He is challenging us to consider what it means to love God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to understand that this might sometimes place us at odds with cultural or familial expectations. So true. So in my past studies of the Book of Ruth, I've never considered all of the sacrifices that Ruth actually made to be with her mother-in-law. And so looking at this was actually very interesting to me. So page 12 here, give me a second. A sip of coffee. Cheers. When you're pregnant, you're not supposed to drink much coffee. So I literally bought myself the tiniest cup, so I feel like I can still have 1 cup of coffee a day. Yeah. Okay. Oh, let's see here. In choosing to accompany Naomi, Ruth stepped into a future that would expose her to numerous hardships and challenges. Among them are cultural transitions, adapting to life in Bethlehem with its distinct traditions and religious practices, economic uncertainty, the looming threat of poverty, a stark reality for widows without a means of support, social isolation, the possibility of being marginalized for her Moabite heritage in a community that may not accept her, personal risk, the immediate dangers of travel, and the vulnerability that she would face in her new life. There may come a time when you're faced with a critical decision, a moment where standing firm in your faith is the only option that aligns with your beliefs, despite the surrounding sea of differing opinions. In these moments, remember the strength found in Joshua 1. Let this promise strengthen and guide you as you navigate the crossroads of life. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Joshua 1:9. And I wanted to share a little bit, and I feel like if you followed along with past studies, maybe I've talked about this before, but something that I think we can often do with Bible characters such as Ruth is we often just make them a hero in our mind. And it's like, well, obviously she chose to go and she loved it, and like she was confident, she said yes, like it was easy for her, she didn't suffer, she didn't struggle. She's like this superhuman person because God put her in the Bible, and so she must have had some sort of power that I would never have been able to have. I could never have done what she did. And I think we need to remember how human they are, and the fact that she faced probably a lot of fears, and she probably asked herself, what am I doing? Is this the right thing? And then she probably was homesick and sad, and we just don't realize how they're so human just like us. And I think the difference between people that we admire like Ruth that do really hard things and the difference we see with ourselves, we often just tell ourselves we could never, oh, I could never do that. And I think I'm convicted of saying that for sure. There's definitely been times in my life, especially when I was younger and just riddled with fear, that I would say, I could never do that, I could never do that. And I would write myself off before I would even ever try to do something. And we don't realize that she also was human just like us and may have felt the same way, but she simply said yes to God. And God would carried her through. As you watch the rest of her testimony, like he was so faithful to her because she said yes to him. And it's just, yeah, it was something that I was challenged actually with when I was younger. I remember being like 14, 15 years old and like sitting on my parents' bed crying and being like, but if I give my whole yes to Jesus, That means I have to be willing to do anything for him. And I'm not. What if he asks me to go to Africa? What if I'm going to go to a persecuted country? And what if he wants me to speak in public or share the gospel with a stranger or something? Like, I know that I wouldn't do that. I already know that. Like, I could never do that. And I was so riddled with fear. And you guys, like 4 years later, when I was 18 years old, I was at YWAM and I had the opportunity to go to Africa, and I faced all those fears, and I had to speak in public, and I had to share the gospel, and it was so far out of my comfort zone. When I was on the plane, I was like, what the heck am I doing? I was like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into here, but I decided that I would die to myself. Didn't matter what people thought about me. I'm just gonna try. I'm gonna say yes. If there's an opportunity to step out of my comfort zone, if there's an opportunity to speak, to share the gospel with somebody, I'm gonna just say yes and do it. And if I fail, I fail, but at least I said yes to the Lord. At least I can know that I was obedient. And in those moments, I watched God be so faithful. And he used me to do things I thought I could never do. And that I had told myself I would never be able to do. And man, did I experience growth in my faith. I experienced God to be so much more real than I had ever experienced before. And I think we often lack those kind of experiences with God because we never step out of our comfort zone. I think often God asks us to say yes. We say yes, we take the step, and he shows up. But we often want him to first, like, well, if you're gonna make me do that, you have to make me feel completely prepared and 100% ready, and I have to know that I'm called, and I have to, like, have all of the resources and feel completely at peace that I am completely capable, and I'm forgetting the word. There's a word that I want to say that is not there, but like ready to do the work. And sometimes he calls us to do things that we might not be 100% prepared to do, and he will use you anyway because he is faithful. And then you grow in your faith because you watch the Holy Spirit use you, and you go, wow, that was him, not me. And you fall in love with him even more, and you worship him even more because of that. And so anyway, when I came back from my missions trip, it actually bothered me that people would tell me all the time, like, wow, I could never do what you did. I could never move to Africa. I could never do that. And I was like, you don't get it. I could never do that either. Like, I could never do that. You don't get it. Like, you don't know how terrified I was. I just said yes. And God showed up. And I think that before you write yourself off, my friend, say yes to God and be obedient to him and watch him move in your life. He will use you. Anyways, sorry. Moving on. Oh, page 14 here. Situated at the lowest point on earth, the Dead Sea, with its waters flowing in but not out, creates an environment that cannot support most life due to its high mineral content. This can be seen as a metaphor for one's spiritual life. God's love and blessings are meant to flow through us, not just to us. If we don't let them flow outward through acts of kindness, charity, and faith in action, our faith becomes stagnant, like the waters of the Dead Sea. This reflects the biblical teaching found in James 2:26. As the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead. And I just want to say, and I am so guilty of this, it is 100% possible to choose to be a Christian out of selfishness, I think. And I am guilty of this 100%, thinking that I am a Christian, I love Jesus because he makes my life better. He gives me peace. He gives me joy. And these things are true. They're still true. But that was my motive in being a Christian. And I can say today that I used to love Jesus because I thought he made my life better, but I love him now because he's good and because he's God, and I realize that he is worthy of my attention and my affection and my adoration and my time and my life. He is worthy of all of it. And and I don't even have to always like what he's doing. He doesn't just make my life better. It's not about me. It's about his kingdom. It is about glorifying him and giving him the honor and the worship that he deserves. And of course, I don't do that perfectly at all, but I have watched my understanding of who he is in the Christian life. It actually says in his word that we are to expect suffering. We expect the world to hate us. We are to expect hard times to come, but the best is yet to come. We're living for eternity, and with that in mind, the cost is nothing. And so, anyway, yeah, I really liked this point about the Dead Sea. It is so true. We are not meant to just be receptors of his love. We are meant to share it with the world, to share it with at least somebody in your life. Okay, sorry. I'm sniffling now because of my little tears there. I guess I can blame my tears on my pregnancy hormones now. I know it's not my pregnancy hormones. I cry all the time, as it is. Okay. On page 17, notice the irony in verse 21 when Naomi said, I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. She left her home during a famine, a period marked by scarcity and want. Looking back on it now, she sees how full her life was, not in terms of physical abundance, but in the immeasurable value of her husband and sons. What she had perceived as lack was in reality a season rich with the very essence of life, companionship, and love. If we could pause for a moment in the midst of the stress and the worry to take a breath of gratitude, perhaps we'd see the treasure that we are holding before it slips away. And that, as a mom of young children, is something that I know I need to do. And it is so easy to sometimes wish away these early days because they're hard work and they're exhausting, and there's nights when I don't sleep very much. And yet, these children are so precious and they're little. They're so cute and sweet, and they say the funniest things, and they love me and they want to give me hugs and kisses all day. It's like, this season's not gonna last long, and I don't know how long I have these beautiful children around for. And so, yeah, very convicting. Okay, I think I'm gonna go to the last page here and just share my answers to those two questions. I love this part. Seeds of renewal, she called it. What are some steps that you can take to cultivate active faith in your daily walk? In what ways might God be guiding you to do so? And I definitely think that something I've been called to do that I have been lacking in is praying for my family members daily, praying for my husband, praying for my children, and also memorizing verses for myself and with my almost 3-year-old. I think it is time to start doing those things, and that's a very practical step that I know I can take, that I truly believe God is guiding me towards, but also just remembering the opportunities that I have with strangers around me every day. And sometimes I wish I was back on the mission field because that felt so significant and important, but this is important. And the people around me here in Canada, they also need the gospel. They also need God's love. They also need patience and kindness. And so, just not forgetting that in my mundane day-to-day life is my goal and my desire, and I definitely think something that God is leading me towards. If you guys want to join us on our Facebook group page, you can go to, I think it's Bible Studies with Time Warp Wife, and you can ask to join the group, and then myself and Darlene are on there, and we love to interact with you guys and hear your comments and your questions and just be able to have conversations there. And you can feel free to answer some of those last 2 questions on there, share your answers, and we are very excited to hear from you guys. We hope you truly enjoy this study and grow in your faith with Christ. So until next time, my friends, I will see you again. Bye for now.